So welcome back to Fatal Female Friday. Today we're going to be doing the case of Sharon Kinne, also known as La Pistolera in some certain areas of Mexico. And so a little known fact about Sharon Kinne. Sharon Kinne actually currently has the longest standing warrant for murder in the United States. So this is a pretty crazy one, so let's go ahead and get started. So Sharon Elizabeth Hall was born on November 30th, 1939. She's always been obsessed. When she was younger, she was always obsessed with like Hollywood and like glamour and like the big city. And so because of this, she wanted to leave out of her small town, Independence, Missouri. And so where it gets a little interesting, she actually meets a man named James when she was 16 and he was 22 at a Mormon church event.
Wait a damn minute. Wait a damn.
He was currently at home from the University of Brigham Young studying in engineering. James was also a native of Independence, Missouri himself, but he went to college in Utah, leaving the state that you grew up in like so many people do. And so Sharon liked James simply because of the fact that he was apparently one of the few people who actually left Independence. And so apparently the feeling between the two of them was mutual. They had a little summer fling, and then obviously once summer was over, he also went back to university. Sharon apparently sent him a letter, apparently informing him that she was pregnant.
What's going on? Y'all are going to jail! Period!
Yeah, and so because of James identified as a Mormon, they went ahead and get married because, apparently it was, it was like the right thing to do because you got pregnant out of wedlock, which back then, that was a big no-no. And so Sharon even apparently converted to Mormonism, and they moved to Provo, Utah so he could finish his college education. So basically when they got married, they basically claimed that she got pregnant by someone else and she was actually a widow and that the husband, had died. And so the husband apparently died in a car wreck, which of course it is apparently almost certain that there was no first husband because again, she was 16, so she wouldn't have been old enough to get married yet. And of course with any fake pregnancy, Sharon decides we're just gonna have a little miscarriage. But they end up actually having a daughter in 1957. James ends up dropping out of college. I don't know if it's because of like financial reasons. So he ends up dropping out of college and goes back to like living closer to his parents, which for obvious reasons they did not like Sharon. In May 1959, they end up having another kid, this one actually being a boy.
Another one.
Apparently, Sharon had found out that James was actually cheating on her with a past lover, and so this obviously caused like a lot of arguments because of his infidelity. However, ironically, she was actually doing the same thing.
Really, nigga?
And so obviously at this point they're on the edge of divorce, and Sharon said she would only agree to divorce if she got full custody. The house, $1,000, which back then that was a lot of money, keep that in mind. And $1,000 was supposed to like help her until she like got a job of her own so she could take care of the kids on her own. James, he goes to his parents for advice, and they say divorce is an option, in Mormonism, and to try to go work it out. And so he tries to go work it out with her, and they just go right back to arguing pretty much right away. On May 19th, 1960, Sharon was getting ready for a church event, and apparently James is taking a nap. Sharon ends up shooting her husband in the back of the head, and she makes it look like her toddler did it. Her toddler is like 2 years old at the time this happens.
Really, nigga?
Sharon, of course, now being like a widow, she apparently looks like really upset over his death.
Bullshit. Bullshit.
They didn't do a gunshot residue test on either Sharon or the child.
Are you serious?
This was said to be because apparently back then the gunshot residue tests they did apparently were painful. So they apparently didn't want to put them through that much pain in such a short amount of time. And so luckily the police did have doubts, and they were like, there's no way a 2-year-old could like shoot someone and possibly kill them. And so they give the 2-year-old a gun, which it was actually empty. They give her to play with it to see if she's able to fire it. And apparently she was able to fire it.
Oh my god! Wow!
And so because of this, James's death was officially ruled an accident.
Halfway.
And so because of this, Sharon was able to inherit $250,000 in his life insurance, which of course a lot of people seemed odd because he was only 25.
That's suspicious. That's weird.
Okay, so it's like 1 month later, Sharon officially has the life insurance payout, a new car, a new life, a new man named Walter. And Walter was actually a married man, and he had a wife named Patricia.
Patricia!
And him and Patricia together had 2 kids. So she wanted him to leave his wife, which he obviously says no. So when she claims that she's pregnant, because again, it worked with James, why would it not work with Walter? Walter apparently even said no. And apparently this is where he decides to cut off their relationship. And so I guess Sharon, out of anger, she actually goes to Patricia's job in a blue Chevy Thunderbird, which apparently is the same car that Patricia's own father had drove, but is never revealed as to how she found that out. And so, of course, Sharon takes Patricia, because Patricia is, I didn't mention this, Patricia is under the assumption that it was Sharon's sister that was cheating on her husband. And so, yeah, she takes her to this isolated area, and she ends up shooting Patricia, and apparently in the head, shoulder, and abs, and ends up killing her. So she basically, like, leaves her there, like, where she killed her at. And then Walt, not knowing that his own wife is dead, he asked Sharon, hey, were you the person that picked up my wife? Because he go ask her coworkers. Her coworkers gave him a description of a woman that looked a lot like Sharon. Sharon claimed that she actually dropped off Patricia a block away from her house, but that she immediately after went into a vehicle of like a green truck. And so not long after, Patricia's body would actually be found, but the guy who found it, obviously he's the first suspect, because the area that he was found in, remember I said it was isolated, so it was like a rural area, and he had a claim to use the bathroom, and apparently his story was not adding up. So then this John guy basically admits that, yeah, he was there with his girlfriend, but his girlfriend didn't want to get involved, so he took her back home before going to the police, and that the bathroom was basically just a cover story. And of course, it's revealed that John's girlfriend was actually Sharon. It was also revealed that Sharon was actually the last person known to see Patricia alive.
You're so dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
And Walt, John, and Sharon are all asked to take a polygraph test. Walt and John, pass, and Sharon refuses.
Coincidence? I think not.
And so Sharon, of course, claims that it was John's idea, not hers. The police come across, this empty gun box, and then she claims that that gun was a replacement for the one that was used to kill her husband, because the police never officially gave that one back. The gun was apparently bought 2 weeks before Patricia had been killed.
Coincidence? I think not.
And she claimed to somehow lost it 2 days after she had bought it.
Bullshit.
Fortunately, an autopsy was never done for Patricia Jones because the funeral home had already embalmed her and cleaned her body up. Sharon was arrested May 31st and was getting charged with the murders of Patricia and James. There were being four trials in all, and apparently it said that her mother apparently had connections with the mafia. Sharon actually tried to lie and said that she was pregnant with James's baby, so she couldn't go to prison, but the timing wasn't adding up because
2 plus 2 is 4, right? And 5 plus 5 is 10. Okay. What the fuck is this? I didn't see.
So it's believed that if she was in fact pregnant, Walt would be the father. Her trial was actually pushed back a year because she was in fact pregnant.
Bruh.
The person that owned the gun before her, he had actually shot a bullet inside of a log. And so, of course, if they could get that bullet, then that means they could connect Sharon to the murders and officially charge her with. They got a saw, right? And the saw was used. The saw somehow cut the bullets to where the bullet wasn't able to be used because of how much damage was done to it by the saw. John apparently claims that, Sharon asked me, would he kill James for her? He also said no, even though being offered $1,000 for it. Then she asked, do you know anyone that is willing to do that? And of course he says no. And apparently this was 2 weeks before James was actually killed.
Coincidence? I think not.
Police had a plan to catch Sharon confessing about the murders while being in the back of the car. She didn't confess, so the best they could do is just have James just testify. The trial actually wouldn't take place for another 2 years. James's parents actually said to support the claim that the baby did it, but some people, and myself personally, believe that Sharon apparently threatened them that they couldn't see their grandchildren if they were on her side.
And
She originally got guilty, but of course she appealed it, and then it got overturned a year and a half later. The next trial after that was a mistrial, and apparently the trial they had after that was a hung jury. She is said to be let go, and then she goes to go hang out with the mob in Kansas City. Sharon had left all her kids to James's parents, disappeared to Mexico, and was now going by the name Jeanette. Supposedly she went there with a man to go get married, but they both just happened to get sick.
I can't go out. I'm sick.
And so apparently there was a pharmacy, and the pharmacy just happened to close. So she went to the bar, because apparently was still open. And so this man at the bar, apparently he sees her, invites her back to his place. Buys her a drink, invites her back to his place. And it's around 3 a.m. So it's like a hotel room, right? The clerk that works at the hotel, he apparently hears a gunshot come from the room. So he goes to see what happened. The man that invited her back to his room. Apparently, he's like on the bed, bleeding out, and Sharon is counting money. She ends up shooting him in the arm, but luckily he survives. And so she tried to claim self-defense. Guns, money, ammo, fake IDs, and a lot of clothes were found. Once they realized that she was actually wanted for murder in the United States, they actually sent Bullet back and they did ballistics on it, and she matched the murder of Patricia. However, due to this thing called double jeopardy, she could not be charged again for that murder. However, she is arrested for murder and has to spend 10 years in a Mexican prison. Of course, she tries to appeal this, and they were like, oh no, the 10 years is too light, so they add 3 years. On December 7th, 1969, Sharon was not in her cell during bed checks, and they didn't realize that Sharon was like missing until like 2 a.m. And so, despite their best efforts, to this day, she has actually not been found.
Oh, hell no!
So yeah, that's the story of Sharon Kinne, also known as La Pistolera. I will see you fatal females with the next one. Bye!